And welcome into a new week, everybody. Here, episode number 9 of the Scholastic Sit Down here on SHL Network alongside Dylan Ward. My name is Luke Jordan. Always a pleasure to be with you guys after a chaotic weekend in overall sports and the SHL. Dylan, how we hanging up after a great Hollow weekend?
Oh, pretty good, Luke. Luckily, no SHL games on Halloween night. And as a matter of fact, even the Saturday after, there were originally two games scheduled, but neither of them got completed. We'll get more into that as we get later into the episode. But it was a fun week and some pretty interesting results that we'll go over here.
Yeah, interesting week to say the least. And without further ado, we'll just jump straight into the score recaps from this past week. We start on October 28th, just one game between Lake Forest and Carmel. And boy, Lake Forest just gets out to a jump. They find six unanswered to open up in the first two periods from six unique goal scorers, and that would eventually be enough. Although the shots were fairly close, 32 to 25 Lake Forest, the score ultimately was not. Carmel would find two at the end, but still a Scouts victory of 6 to 2, Dylan.
Yeah, the shots after two periods, Luke, were 28 to 17. So Carmel does somewhat narrow the gap at the end, but like you said, 32-25. 6-2, I mean, that's still a blowout, right? But it was even more so. You said it. Six unanswered goals to start the game. Carmel does add two in the third period with that running clock, eventually stopping the clock, of course, getting within four goals. But just overall, a great response from the perspective of Lake Forest, who lost to Carmel Catholic earlier in the year. They tie up the season series here with this one.
Now, Wednesday was simply incredible. We had two great games, and starting off on the slightly earlier start, St. Ignatius was on the road against Glenbrook South. Me and you were there for that one, and it was a chess match. Nick Nocera and Thomas Preston exchanging saves left and right until finally a shot through traffic from Anthony Pinto found the back of the net with 3:27 to go. From then on, two empty netters on what was a sensational game, Dylan.
Yeah, 3-0 doesn't really come close to describing the story of this one. You said it
Absolutely not.
1-0 with 3.5 minutes to go. Anthony Pinto gets his first goal of the season with an assist by Owen Cosmeter. The Nasher Vanderplug and Blake Hoffer both get empty net goals. Listen, the shots on goal in this one were 36 to 26. I don't necessarily think GBS played a bad game, but St. Ignatius probably played the better game this night. And then lots of unbelievable scoring chances on each side. And probably the least dangerous looking chance is the game winning goal and the shot from the left point by Anthony Pinto. And the Titans will take it. That is just their third win over St. Ignatius in the last 3 years.
And to go off of that one, just after, not too far at all from Glenview Community Ice Center, we tilted at the Northbrook Sports Center, Glenbrook North hosting New Trier, and this game had everybody stunned for the first two periods. I mean, Theo Girathanis, Blake Smith score in the first. Jack Herstrit does cut into the deficit, but then Ray Karras, James Morrissey. And after the second, you're going into the intermission. Glenbrook North, a team that has not gotten off to the hottest of starts, is leading 4-1. And from then on, whatever Adam Jarris or whoever said anything in that New Trier locker room deserves a raise because they come out. Jenner Layden finds one. Chase Marino. Then Layden again with 34 seconds to go, hounding pressure in the last few minutes. Eventually, finally, New Trier finds the back of the net to tie the game. So we go to overtime. So New Trier, after a game that seemed nearly improbable to come back from, you needed 3 goals in 17 minutes. You got it against Glenbrook North. The points guaranteed, but the 2 points weren't. But exactly a minute into OT, the junior Jack Woolabin scores the game winner, assisted by Chase Marino once again, who had himself a great game with 1 goal and 3 helpers. This was insane. Me and you, immediately after that Glenbrook South game, we propped up the laptop. We were like, we got it. We got to catch the end of this on Live Barn. And we're glad we did.
Yeah, and luckily Northbrook Sports Center just added Live Barn over this offseason, so we were able to do that. I mean, listen, Luke, this is a textbook New Trier Green comeback. Glenbrook North, like you said, they've been a powerhouse in recent years, but off to a shaky start towards the bottom of the standings. New Trier, this is the eve of their first meeting with Loyola this season. Maybe their head wasn't 100% in the game, but they go down 4-1. And like you said, whether it was Adam Cheris in the locker room or the boys just kind of coming together on their own and realizing what's about to happen, there's no way they're not getting it done. I mean, it's almost one of those where once they get within one goal with 3:44 to go, I almost consider them the favorite, even though they're down, because momentum is on their side. They outshot GBN and New Trier. I mean, games like this, Luke, are exactly why they've won three state championships in a row and are widely considered to be the number one team in the state at any given time.
And then we would go into Thursday for one of our two SHL Game of the Week broadcasts and what is easily the main event, as it is mostly every year, or at least one of the main events. The good old rivalry between the Ramblers and Trevians, Loyola, New Trier. But this one kind of lopsided, as New Trier, with four unique goal scorers, they find three in the first two periods from Layden Knight, Rowing, and then Chase Marino, while Loyola had a power play with just about 3 minutes to go. He was able to put the game away, Chase Marino, for his fourth of the season, and it's a 4-0 victory for the Trebs in what was a packed house on a late Thursday night.
Packed house is right. New Trier students were all blackout, and the Loyola students were all in Halloween costumes. This game was on marquee, and it lived up to the hype in terms of, just the energy in the building. But the game itself, not so much. It was all New Trier green. They ended up outshooting them 21-9 in the second period.
Yeah.
New Trier green does, and Loyola gets desperate. They pulled their goalie somewhat early. And they're just not able to find that game tying goal. It ends up being a shorthanded goal in the book for Chase Moreno into the empty net. But the Trevians, they came to play on this night. And Max Reed, he sees 26 shots. He made some key saves to keep the shutout alive. And you talk about a moment for Max Reed, played AAA, comes to New Trier Green, first career game against Loyola at any level, and he gets the shutout over gold.
You want to talk about more impressive goaltending? Let's look over to the next one. York and St. Viator facing off on that same night, just 20 minutes later at Rosemont Ice Arena, in what was a great game between two of the top teams in the state, and York is just climbing their way up the ladder. They win this one 4-2. After trailing 2-1, they find three unanswered. Keaton Nix ultimately the one putting it away in the third period on a power play goal to extend the lead to two. And boy, Levi Brown, gonna have to start remembering this name, folks. He has simply come in and made himself the real deal. This was, I believe, his third win in three appearances. He appeared
Mhm.
against GBS, won that one. Appeared against New Trier back on the last Friday, was incredible. Then he comes in here, takes on the Viator Lions, who just about returned their entire offense. We're going to get to talk to one of their key pieces today in Ryan Loftus. And still, Levi Brown stands tall. He stops 28 out of 30. And I'm not a huge one on comparisons, but we are very much seeing almost kind of an emergency ramping up of a Charlie Trapp in a way. Whereas he really wasn't, he didn't start the season. Nobody expected Levi Brown to be the starting netminder at this given point. And yet he has come in, he has earned the job. He has been sensational in the Yorks. This is just the beginning of a big week.
Luke, not only was he not playing, he wasn't on the roster. They called him up from varsity too. That first game against GBS gets a shutout. So you got to think the coaching staff says, all right, let's see what you got next game. Beats New Trier Green in a shootout with some key saves in that one. And then, like you said here, I mean, 28 stops against what my hockey rankings claims to be the number one team in the state in St. Viator at the moment. Unbelievable. And a great comeback by York too. Down after the first period, we've talked about York struggles with finishing games and holding leads or whether or maybe coming back from deficits. They do in this one, and they get just enough that third period. Keaton Nix seals the deal, making it a two-goal game on the power play. And York never looked back, and York is red hot.
Yeah, and I mean, they've been on the bad end of some results this season. They've got plenty of losses in overtime or shootout for the amount of games that they played up to this pace, but they find themselves crawling back this time around and getting a big win. Now, Saturday, so Friday was Halloween. Hope everybody had a great Halloween. Saturday was the day after Halloween. We had two games. The first one, New Trier and St. Ignatius. The glass broke on a hit down in Chicago, so that game is further postponed. And Dylan, remind me of the second one.
The second one was Carmel Catholic and York, and for reasons that I'm actually not aware of, they postponed that one at the last minute. But yeah, New Trier has a 1-0 lead with about 14 minutes to go in the third. Glass breaks, and second year in a row, New Trier has been involved in a game where the glass breaks in progress. So very interesting. Obviously, with it being a league game, it'll have to be made up if necessary. I think through the grapevine, what I'm hearing is they will kind of keep it on the back burner and see how the season plays out. And then, if it is needed, schedule that remaining third period for some time in between the end of the regular season and the first game of the playoffs, but only if it's needed to determine seeding. And Luke, what makes this difficult is this was the last regular season meeting already between these two teams. So they can't, say, hey, next time we play, we'll finish the third period and
Yep.
then play the full game. So we'll see how they tackle this one. But as for now, that game hangs in the balance.
Yeah, very interesting, Dylan, on what seemed like a fairly harmless hit. You just kind of hear the
Yeah.
glass shatter on the broadcast, and tip my cap to Frank Zarowski, who was filling in for me on the Trevian Hockey Network. I got to check back and watch the replay the next morning, and I was like, why is the game 2 hours long? Like, why does it say 2 hours? Oh, surely it went into overtime or shootout, right? No, it didn't finish. So, yeah, bizarre. And as Dylan said, that game's only going to be completed if necessary. So, as he says, on the back burner. So we'll know eventually by the end of the season if they'll need to play each other or not. But
And
three
Luke,
games.
I
Oh,
should
go ahead.
add also that as for now, the goals scored in that game, no stats from that game are currently in the system for the SHL. So it has all been recorded, and again, if it's needed, those stats will eventually count. But the standings have not been changed because of this. The goal scoring stats, just in general for players, have not been changed. So just something to keep in mind.
So three games on Sunday. We'll roll through them real quick and then break them down. Starting off, Glenbrook South on the road against New Trier, but not too far from home at North Shore Ice Arena. And boy, New Trier gets out in front early with George Knight's goal. From then on, GBS bounces back, two in the second, one in the third. They ice it away and win this one 3-1 for what was a very hungry win they need against New Trier. They have struggled against them in the past in the regular season. They get one there. Loyola and Lake Forest was the next one up at Alumni Memorial Fieldhouse. The Ramblers control the middle frame, 3 goals in the second. Peter Lochnicki with 2 goals of his own, scoring near the end of the first as well, as Loyola wins 5-2. Lastly, our second game of the week broadcast of the week back from Chicago. It was St. Ignatius playing host to York, and this was a big test for York, having struggled with St. Ignatius in the past. They got their get back. A 4-2 win, iced away by Jack Passion, the game winner, and then Anthony Perotti, while St. Ignatius was threatening in the final few minutes. The Dukes hang on, and as of right now, in the power rankings that were just released, as you're seeing this on what I would believe to be 2 days ago, the power rankings released in York. I believe, as far as Sam's memory goes, our memory goes, they are the first team to jump up 6 spots in the power rankings from seven out of 10 to one. It's incredible, Dylan.
Yeah, and I'll get to that game in a moment, but I just first want to start with Glenbrook South and New Trier. Uh, the Trevians completely dominated that first period, outshot the Titans 12-5. GBS ended up being even in shots in the second and third period combined. They get some momentum with a late goal in the second period. Then they get a power play, and Blake Hoffer buries one as well. Thomas Preston, another unbelievable effort in net for the Glenbrook South Titans. Blake Hoffer sends one into the empty net with 1 second left, and they don't even stop the clock to drop the puck again. That was the game. The Titans win. against the Trevians, handing New Trier their first regulation loss in SHL play since Lake Forest beat them, however long ago that was, about 7 games or so. So for the Titans, they've had struggles against St. Ignatius and New Trier Green in the last few years, and they break both of those curses here with that one. So a big win for them. Looking at this York game, Luke, you know, this was on the SHL Network Game of the Week. William Brown, Luke Campasano get the scoring started with 2 goals in the second period after a scoreless first. Final shots on goal in this one, 27 to 21. Levi Brown again, 25 saves. Jack Passion gets the eventual game-winning goal to make it 3-1 with 12:49 to go in the third period. And if York wasn't the real deal, they are now. I mean, you look at their record 6-1-3, one regulation loss. Yes, you could say, oh, it's 6-4, but in hockey, sending a game to overtime is valuable. That's why the standings work like that. And listen, 3 overtime losses is a win and a half. So they're climbing up the SHL standings. You said it first in the power rankings. And Luke, if you sort the SHL standings by points percentage, York's currently number one.
Yeah, and yeah, you talk about, oh yeah, it's 4 losses, but I mean, this team kind of reminds me a little bit of the 2013 Blackhawks and how they started their season, whereas they just wouldn't lose in regulation. They would lose games, but they would always salvage that extra point, and it means so much down the line, and really is a big part why York has now jumped ahead to number one. Obviously, the power rankings are based off of recent play, but do you really think a 6-4-0 team would be at the top of the power rankings is the question.
Right, right. That's exactly right. And listen, their one regulation loss, 5-2 to GBS, that was on October 3rd. At the time we're recording this, it's November 3rd. Exactly a month has passed, and they have gotten at least a point in each and every game, Luke. I mean, York, something's clicking right now in Addison, and I don't see them showing any signs of stopping.
Yeah, this team is fun. Many coaches in the coaches roundtable at the high school hockey kickoff show tagged York as a dark horse, and I think they're almost coming out of that cage to what is now a contender because they said it. I mean, I think Jeff Marks said it for GBN, I believe, during that roundtable. He said, if you give York time with Evan, they will start to flourish, and they are alongside the rest of the staff.
And Luke, I'll add one more thing about the Dukes is this is not a team that's not familiar with being close to a state championship. I mean, with how good they are in the regular season now, you might forget that they went to the United Center twice in the last 3 years in the state championship, lost to New Trier Green in both. Obviously, some time has passed. You're missing some players, but the identity of the York Dukes knows what it's like to get all the way to the state championship. And, you know, they weren't necessarily the hottest teams in the regular season both those years, but they kicked it up a notch in the state playoffs. If they can consistently continue to win games, get points, they might find themselves hoisting the trophy and ending New Trier's streak.
Yeah, and one last thing about York. I said on that SHL Game of the Week broadcast between them and New Trier, and I wasn't sure about it yet. I was pretty sure about it. I said that, I think this is the best team they've had out of those years on paper with all the great returners. And the goalie was really the question mark. And Levi Brown has come in, filled in that slot. He's been great. Another goalie that has really stood out before we talk to our special guest from St. Viator is actually Thomas Preston from Glenbrook South. This week, he stopped 63 out of 64, a goals allowed average of .5, only allowing that one goal in the first to New Trier. So, with that being said, that recaps the week here for the SHL. And now, St. Viator, who's still one of the best teams in the state, alongside one of the best scorers in the state, Ryan Loftus, joins us for a special guest segment. And we're here with episode 9 special guest, Ryan Loftus, forward of the St. Viator Lions. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Ryan. Got to start with a question that not many people know about, really, and I think people are starting to learn about more. But you guys actually play in 2 leagues, just kind of like St. Ignatius, but it's a completely different perspective of us. Kind of lead us into what it's about and what you like about it compared to the SHL.
Yeah, it's called the GOPHL. It's about, I mean, we have teams from Canada. We got a team from Pittsburgh, one from Buffalo. We just went to Vermont this past weekend. Team from Vermont called Rice. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a very competitive league. It's I mean, it's a lot like the SHL. It's a lot. I mean, we went to in Vermont. We took a lot of penalties, but it's just a physical league. But yeah, it's intense. It gets us going. It helps us play better when we do come back to Illinois and play the SHL teams. But yeah, it's fun. I mean, going on those trips with the guys, especially being able to play those teams.
So you get to go over the border to Canada play in some of those games.
Yeah, I think we're going to Canada for the first time as a team this year. I think we're going
Nice.
to Ontario,
There you
and
go.
then we'll go to Pittsburgh once or twice. I think we went to Pittsburgh 3 times last year. I think we go twice this year, and then yeah, I think we go to Buffalo and then Pittsburgh twice, and then one time to Canada.
That's really cool. Yeah, I definitely saw some of that stuff on social media, but it's really cool to hear your perspective of it. Talking about your team in SHL play, you're averaging over a point per game. Only 2 games so far. You haven't gotten at least a goal or an assist. But this year you've been on varsity 3 years. You've got Pepe LeBoy, Connor Sibitroth also kind of, you know, growing up with you on the team. This year, where is your confidence level in terms of making a deep run, potentially later on in the season versus the last couple?
Our confidence is high. I think we have especially this year. I mean, the past couple years we've been a good team. We've gotten far to the Final Four, but I mean, obviously the Final Four is not what we're looking for. We're looking for the state championship. Vidor's never had one, so we're looking to be the first group to do that. And I think we don't believe we know we have the guys this year to do it, and we know this is our year to do it. So just I mean, our confidence is obviously through the roof. I mean, we started off hot. We've kind of slowed down in the past couple of weeks, but I think that's just a learning curve that we have to get through. With as you brought up our league in the GLPHL, and here it's a lot, but we just have to learn to enjoy it and enjoy these days of the season when it gets hard, and just showing up and doing what we're asked of by our coaches, and we trust our coaches. Our coaches trust us, and we know that's going to get us to the state championship or wherever it takes us. But we know it's going to take us far.
Well, you've got a reason to have your confidence high. I think a lot of people have noted how many players you have returned. I personally I don't mean to boost your confidence too high, but I've marked you guys as the team to beat this year. And I know you guys aren't currently at the top of the SHL rankings or anything, but you're right at the top of the table. And I think that just has to do really with all your returners, as we mentioned, but also you had two goalie slots that needed to be
Yeah.
filled. I mean, Brock Hare, John Mayer, both seniors, graduated, moved on. Brock was a huge piece last year. I'm sure you could attest to that. He wore an A for heck's sake. Tell me about Calder Turpin and how he has really stepped up to the varsity one game.
Oh, Calder's been unbelievable. He's a goalie. Might have been a question mark before the year, but I think we trusted our guys. We knew who we had, and even Joey Sclafini.
Yeah, I was gonna say Sclafini too.
He's played unbelievable in the games he's had. It's been but it's honestly been fun to watch. I know Brock Hare and even John Mayer last year. I mean, it's obviously huge shoes to fill for Joey and Calder, but I don't think anyone can say they haven't done that this year, and they've done their job and more. And they've Calder's stolen us some games, and Joey's done the same. But it's the biggest thing when it comes to goalies, just being able to trust them as a team, and we're able to do that, and it's very easy for us to play in front of those two.
Well, speaking of Sclafini, John Sclafini, of course, was sort of the interim head coach last year as Tim Benz stepped away, but now Tim Benz back as the full-time head coach of the St. Viator Lions. What has it meant to you and your group to have him back at the helm for pretty much all the games?
Yeah, we definitely missed him last year. He did a lot behind the scenes. But obviously this year he's on the bench with us and with us the whole year. So it's been great. The way those two can work off of each other, and even with Chris Brands and our coach Steve on the defensive end. I mean, they work as well with Machine. They're all on the same page. We know what's expected out of us from them, and they know what we need as a team to be able to excel and be the team that we need to be. And the way they work together is crazy. And it's the only two coaches I've ever been around to be able to realize what they're doing.
Yeah, and I mean, just going on the point of your own career, you have been in a lot of big games, but I mean, you guys have not won the state championship, as you mentioned. You guys have been close to the SHL championship. So I really like asking these types of questions to players that don't have the obvious, oh, the state championship, at least not yet for you. Do you have a favorite game in memory over the course of your 3-year varsity career?
Um,
Tough one, right?
yeah, I have a couple, but obviously one you can think of is the Final Four game last year at West Meadows. I mean, it was
What a
an
game.
electric atmosphere. We had
Oh my gosh.
pretty much our whole school there, New Cheerbot, a great student section. Being able to play as a team with my guys. I mean, it was our last game, but we didn't know that at the time. But now looking back, there wasn't a better group of guys that would have played that game with. It was. I mean, every time getting back to that bench, your coach is talking to you. Everyone, it's intense. You're looking up. I mean, you can't help but to look up in the stands and see all your friends from the school, your family. Everyone has their extended family there, and you're playing. You're playing for more than just that lion on your chest. You're playing for your fans that came to watch you, that have, and your parents that have spent how much time and money to get you into this situation. And it's a special moment, and it's fun to be able to showcase your talents in front of a lot of people.
Yeah, that was an incredible game. I mean, yeah, obviously you didn't get the result you wanted, but that was one of the ex answers I definitely expect. Really cool atmosphere. Dylan, go ahead.
Well, you guys as a team had a pretty tough stretch in the last 5 games. New Trier, Loyola, York, who's proven to be a contender this year, as well as Lake Forest twice. You got a couple more tough games this week, but after that, you have a stretch of 6 games out of 8 at home at Mount Prospect Ice Arena or Rosemont Ice Arena in some cases. How would you rank this stretch of games, the November to December, in terms of importance to just kind of get even further in your rhythm as a team and get ready for the run in February and March?
Yeah. Obviously, everyone looks at the beginning and the end of the season as the most important parts, but you don't get far in the end if you don't try in the middle. So that's what we're looking for. Again, guys, you just want to show up during the dog days of the season. Everyone knows November to December there might not be a lot to look forward to. You're showing up to practice every day. You might be tired. It's cold. You're probably feeling under the weather, but it's just about enjoying those days, especially as a senior. It's your last year. You have to appreciate every little thing that you can. And I feel as if the seniors the past couple years have really shown that to me with our captain Aiden O'Neill last year. I remember we were getting ready for our state run. We were still in the regular season, and I was tired, and I was telling him I was having a bad practice, and he was like, I was like, part of me doesn't even want to be there, and he just looked at me. He's like, you're gonna understand when you're at this point next year. It doesn't matter if it's a Monday, a Tuesday. You're gonna want to show up. You're gonna want to try because this is it. So yeah, it's definitely it's definitely something we have to learn. It's obviously going to be hard to enjoy, but we have to learn to enjoy it, and we got to love the game, and the game will love us back.
I mean, that's a great answer. I've been in your shoes before, not at the level that you're at, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And that brings me to my last question, Ryan, is what does the future hold for you? Do you plan on going and maybe playing juniors? Do you want to go play in college? Do you look to further your hockey career?
Obviously, I would love to further my hockey career. Um, it's just I know this year is my most important year. If obviously last year was an important year, but this year it's my last year in high school. I'm definitely looking. I would love to play after high school if that opportunity comes, and it's something I definitely do want to pursue. But um, yeah, it's that. Yes, I definitely do want to go play high end juniors or or juniors, just not anything that I don't think is beneficiary for me or
Yeah.
for my family.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would obviously love to play after high school.
You sure can.
We'd love to see you play after high school. This will be my last question, but that background, we talked a little bit about it before we started recording, but that is just a great painting of the St. Viator logo. What's the backstory behind that?
Yeah, so we have a event every year at Papa Nicholas Associates. It's right down the street from our rink, and it's called a Vegas night. And we invite all the coaches from all the different teams in the school, the lacrosse, all that, and parents, families, everyone comes, and it's a big fundraiser for the team. It funds like Some people donate money for tape for us. Some people just like the necessities that not a lot of other teams in the league can benefit from. But we have this event that helps our team function and perform at the highest level. But this was an auction. I think we had a painter come in who actually painted it in front of all of us. And then yeah, it was an auction. One of the St. Viator parents bought it and donated it back to our program. So we hung it up in our film room, our Viator room that we have at the rink. So yeah.
Wow, I did not expect that detailed and good of a story. It's incredible that you know that yourself,
Yeah.
man. Well, Ryan, we want to thank you so much for joining us here on episode number 9, and best of luck throughout the rest of the season, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. St. Viator's senior Ryan Loftus, thank you so much for joining us here on episode number 9. Pleasure to have you on, and it's always fun getting to have the players on, Dylan.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot different to hear from the players themselves versus the coaches. I mean, it's a totally different way of thinking about the game, and for a guy like Ryan Loftus, great to hear what he had to say.
So now let's look outside the SHL real fast. We cover the IHSHL North Central, Chicago Catholic League, Illinois West, and the Metro Girls High School Hockey League. Let's go back to our game of the week. I picked Evanston and Deerfield on a Wednesday night, late night in Evanston, Illinois. And once again, another game of the week did not disappoint. I'm I don't know what's going on. I'm on a heater though. I can't lie. Deerfield on the road opens up the scoring not even 5 minutes in, but then Evanston later on in the first period answered with two of their own. So it's 2-1 Evanston. Nothing happens in the second. Then in the third, a penalty for tripping on Evanston, giving lead to a Eli Jacobs power play goal. He was a beast for the Warriors last year. He finds the equalizer here. So then we would go to overtime and yet another outside the SHL game of the week. I don't know what's going on with this little streak I got going, but Evanston would eventually put things away with 36 seconds to go. Hans Petritis with his second of the North Central season. Another beyond regulation thriller. Evanston would move to 5-1-1 as they start to creep among the North Central standings. Now, the North Central standings currently seating Prep at the top with 17 points. Evanston's now in second. New Trier Blue in third. BGHW in fourth. And Deerfield still lurking within the top 5 at fifth. They're 6-2-2 with 2 overtime losses. Over to the Chicago Catholic League. St. Ignatius 6-0-0 at the top. Bennett has started to creep their way up at 5-3. Fenwick is just behind them at 4-3. Providence Catholic in fourth. Brother Rice in fifth. In the Illinois West Division, it is still the top story to watch. The Hinsdale Central Red Devils are still unbeaten. It is sensational to see what they have done down the way. Their next game is on November 9th against the DuPage Stars, and the question is, can they go 10-0? As
Yeah.
a look down the rest of the standings, Maine in second, Glenbard in third, Warriors in fourth, and Plainfield in fifth. Over to the Metro Girls High School Hockey League. York is at the top still, 6-1. Fenwick's girls team in second. The Napier Valley Warriors in third. And Lake Forest has started to jump up into fourth. The New Trier girls, the defending state champs, are in fifth. Glenbrook is got a game in hand, though, on the Trevians, tied for that fifth spot. So, our game of the week, call me a cheater all you want. I'm sorry. It's too good of a game to skip over. This Friday, St. Ignatius and Fenwick face off at the Ridgeland Commons for CCHL. Fenwick, a former team. St. Ignatius, kind of a double roster in a way, whereas they play in both the SHL and the CCHL. And this game, 8:30 down in Oak Park, second meeting of the season between these two teams. St. Ignatius won the first one back on September 24th, over a month ago, 5-2. So some anticipation should be brewing for that one, Dylan.
Yeah, and with when Fenwick was in the SHL for those last 2 seasons before this one, those would always be really exciting games because they'd be double jeopardy. So they'd count in the
Yep.
SHL and CCHL. I actually I forget who I was talking to, but I was saying, hey, listen, what if it goes into overtime? SHL is 3-on-3, CCHL is 4-on-4, and they said they hadn't thought that far. But luckily for them, none of their games when they were doing Double Jeopardy went into overtime. But now it's solely a CCHL game, and that rivalry is definitely not lost between those two teams.
Not at all, Dylan. And let's take a look for St. Ignatius and all the other teams down the line during this week's schedule preview. Just 6 games this week here in the Scholastic Hockey League, and let's jump right into it. On Wednesday, Hump Day, we have 2 games and 2 good ones at that. St. Viator is on the road against Glenbrook South, 7:10 p.m. at the Glenview Community Ice Center. And just 10 minutes later, GBN plays host to Carmel, two teams desperate for a win down at Northbrook. This is another week, Dylan, where both Glenbrook teams, North and South, are hosting home games just a few minutes apart.
Yeah, just a few minutes apart in both puck drop and driving time between the two rinks. St. Viator and GBS, this will be their first meeting of the season, and it's going to be a really interesting game. Glenbrook South has been a little bit hot and cold. They've gotten their wins together. They've beaten St. Ignatius and New Trier Green. If they can follow it up with a win over St. Viator, that would be huge for them. But as for the Lions, they're trying to bounce back from that game against the York Dukes. And from their perspective, if they can beat GBS, that'll be a huge momentum swing for them. As for the second game, also a great game, Luke. As you pointed out, Carmel Catholic and Glenbrook North. I mean, look, when you do look at the SHL standings, there's sort of a gap, you know, between the top 7 teams and the bottom three. So
Yep.
Lake Forest is in seventh with 16 points, or excuse me, Glenbrook South is in seventh with 13 points, but less games played. Glenbrook North in eighth with 6 points. Stevenson with four, Carmel with two. So this is their first meeting of the season. From Carmel Catholic's perspective, this is, I don't want to say must win because we're still in early November, but if you can get a win here, that would be huge for the Corsairs. And maybe if they can do it a couple more times to Stevenson and Glenbrook North, they can find themselves in the SHL playoff picture. We will see, but that's going to be a great game.
Yeah, Dylan. I mean, for those of you that are new to the SHL season, the top 8 out of 10 teams make the SHL playoffs, and GBN, Carmel, and Stevenson are fighting for that bottom spot in the picture as of right now, if things are to stay going on the rails just as it is right now. That, granted, can always change. Over to Friday, November 7th. It's another classic Friday night at Addison. The last time we saw one of these, York pulled off a stunner in the shootout on SHL Network against New Trier. This time they play host to a team that has been on a lot of up and downs, and when they play good, they are one of the top in the state. Lake Forest, once again, 7:10 p.m. puck drop in what should be an exciting one between these two teams. Second meeting of the season, Lake Forest squeaked out of the previous one back on October 19th, 3-2.
Yeah, in overtime as well. And for a team like York, you've got a 4 game winning streak against some of the best teams in the state. They beat Glenbrook South, they beat New Trier, they beat St. Viator, they beat St. Ignatius, Lake Forest. Maybe slipping a little bit out of that the hype that they had in October, but definitely still a good team that has proven they can win over some really tough opponents. Luke, this is going to be one heck of a game at Addison Ice Arena. I'm really looking forward to seeing who takes it.
No games on Saturday, which is interesting.
Very
Not one
unusual.
of the few weekends you're going to see this happen, of course, other than Halloween weekend where we saw no games get completed technically, but
Right.
you get the point. 3 games on Sunday, starting at 5:30 p.m. It's St. Viator and New Trier meeting for the second time this season, but this time on the soil of New Trier at North Shore Ice Arena, and what should be a great game. A low scoring chess match between the two last time that the Trevians won. Just 15 minutes later, up north in Lake Forest, the Scouts, who are predominantly a very good team on home ice, host the Stevenson Patriots for another home tilt there. And then at 6:30 p.m., GBN goes into the city, Fifth Third Arena, where St. Ignatius will be waiting for them at 6:30 to close out the Sunday night. 3 games here on the last day of the week. Dylan, what sticks out to you?
Well, first of all, St. Viator, New Trier obviously sticks out to me. These are two top teams in the state. St. Viator plays GBS earlier in the week. Depending on that, it'll be really interesting to see what happens in this game. As for GBN, they're looking for some major revenge. St. Ignatius won 5-0 the last time these two teams met at Northbrook Sports Center. But wrapping it up, we've got our game of the week, 5:45 p.m. That'll be on SHL Network. I'll be on color for that one, which I'm looking forward to. But you look at Stevenson and Lake Forest. Stevenson beat Lake Forest 6-3 earlier in the season. That's one of the Patriots' two wins on the year. So clearly they've proven that they can keep themselves in a game and really keep themselves in a game by winning by 3 goals. Going to be interesting to see how Lake Forest responds, especially after playing York on Friday night just 2 days prior. But for the Stevenson Patriots, like any team in the SHL, they love being on the broadcast, and they're going to make the most of it, at least try their best to, against a team that they've already beaten this season.
Yep, that game of the week once again, 5:45, Alumni Memorial Fieldhouse. Dylan, as he mentioned, will be on the call and color. Andy Petzinger will join us on play-by-play, and Wes Anderson, as usual, is down between the benches. Now, Dylan, I've kind of let you take this into your own hands, considering you just flat out got the better memory than me, and I'm pretty sure now you have the better lead than me in the highest scoring game, but I'll let you take the driver's seat for here.
Yes, sir. I picked GBN and New Trier to have the highest scoring game after they played a 10-5 game earlier in the season, and it was indeed the highest scoring game, Luke. They that had 9 goals in the 5-4 final score in overtime. So we had a 1.5 tie going into this week. I get a full point for that being the sole highest scoring game of the week. So now I have a 2.5 to 1.5 lead in our game. So lots of season left. We'll see what happens. But remember, that steak dinner paid for by Max Anderson is on the line. And Luke, with you being the host this week, that means I get first choice.
Yep.
And looking through this, I'm gonna go ahead and take Carmel and GBN. I think GBN was involved in that high scoring game last week. Carmel Catholic, they're going to be hungry against a team that has been struggling recently. I think they've got some goals in them on this Wednesday night. So give me that as my highest scoring game of week 9.
Yeah, I'm going to pick another one that involves Glenbrook North. They're on the road against St. Ignatius. I think Carmel and GBN would have probably been my top choice because, I mean, those two teams have found themselves in the most high scoring games, whether they're on the good end or bad end of it this season. And yeah, I'm feeling it could be a high scoring one. Chicago, I think we probably picked two of the most potential high scoring games out of what is a very defensive stacked week. I mean, you look down the line, you've got some, of course, everybody's a great goaltender in the SHL, but you've got some prestigious ones set to play this week. Calder Turpin, Thomas Preston, Logan Marsh, Levi Brown. I mean, he could, Max Reed. I could go on for hours. So, but you get the point there. And Dylan gets the point last week 2.5 to 1.5. He leads now. Now, real quick, just want to slot out a quick game of the week from each of us. And I mean, I'm probably stealing yours, honestly. There's a couple of good ones, but St. Viator and New Trier, I was there last time, did not disappoint. Now it's New Trier getting to host. I'm sure they'll bring out a lovely crowd in what is a state semifinal rematch from last year. Dylan, your choice.
Luke, I'm going to go ahead and go with the actual game of the week for the SHL network and say
There you go.
Stevenson and Lake Forest is mine. Again, these two teams have different records. Stevenson has been struggling here to open up the season, but just because of the fact that they beat Lake Forest the first time and the season series still hangs in the balance, Lake Forest trying to tie it up, Stevenson trying to clinch the season series. I think there's going to be a lot of good storylines going into that one, and we'll have it for you live on YouTube.
One. Closing things out here on episode number 9. Not sure if you guys have caught on. We are not doing the question of the week and trivia question as of right now, but we kind of want you guys to participate. This would be kind of an optional questions and answers. Any opinions that you want us to answer, anything specific, we'd love to bring it to you. But I feel like it's kind of more of a class engagement when you guys are the one asking the questions that you want to be answered instead of us. So we'll go with that from now on. So go down in the comment section, leave down any questions, suggestions even you have. We'd be willing to hear them with open ears. So Dylan Ward is beside me, my friend. Do you have any final words before we sign off on episode number 9?
Not much, Luke. Just a lighter week of hockey. Best of luck to all the teams. And, I think probably starting next week, we can start diving into those standings once a week.
Yeah.
We're getting to that point, early November, first week of November, where, teams are settling into their positions in the standings. So, just really looking forward to seeing how this week goes and this entire month goes.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode number 9. Don't forget to leave a question or suggestion down in the comments. Once again, Dylan Ward alongside myself, Luke Jordan. Big thanks to Ryan Loftus for joining us here as the special guest. And we will see you guys for another special guest and another great episode number 10 next week. See you guys until then. Five, four, three, two, one. Closing things out here on episode number 9. Not sure if you guys have caught on. We are not doing the question of the week and trivia question as of right now, but we kind of want you guys to participate. This would be kind of an optional questions and answers. Any opinions that you want us to answer, anything specific, we'd love to bring it to you. But I feel like it's kind of more of a class engagement when you guys are the one asking the questions that you want to be answered instead of us. So we'll go with that from now on. So go down in the comment section, leave down any questions, suggestions even you have. We'd be willing to hear them with open ears. So, Dylan Ward is beside me, my friend. Do you have any final words before we sign off on episode number 9?
Not much, Luke. Just a lighter week of hockey. Best of luck to all the teams. And, I think probably starting next week, we can start diving into those standings once a week.
Yeah.
We're getting to that point, early November, first week of November, where, teams are settling into their positions in the standings. So, just really looking forward to seeing how this week goes and this entire month goes.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode number 9. Don't forget to leave a question or suggestion down in the comments. Once again, Dylan Ward alongside myself, Luke Jordan. Big thanks to Ryan Loftus for joining us here as the special guest. And we will see you guys for another special guest and another great episode, episode number 10 next week. See you guys until then.